Welcome back. I am super excited about today's episode where I'm interviewing Frank Canova with Diablo Valley Cabinetry as he shares his story about leadership and growth and an event that happened in his life that really changed how he thought about leading and running his business. Okay, let's jump in. I'm super glad and grateful to have my guest, Frank Canova Jr., here today with Diablo Valley Cabinetry. And today, Frank and I are talking about, and Frank is sharing his story of some event that's happened in his life that really changed how he thinks and how he operates as a human being and how he functions in his business. And Frank, thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being a guest. And before we jump in, would you mind just telling people a little bit about you and about your business, what you do, and then we'll jump in.
No, that sounds great, Vicki. Thank you so much for inviting me to participate. As always, love having the conversation with you. So yeah, I'm Frank Canova. My company is Diablo Valley Cabinetry. We are celebrating our 41st year, which is an amazing milestone that we're very proud of. Family business. My dad started the company in 1982. I joined him in 2005, and he retired 2 years ago in 2022. So right at our 40-year mark. So it's a nice milestone to achieve, and looking to take the business into new places moving forward.
Yeah, and you have built a great business. Yeah, and your dad and you did such a great job in your transition too. So just want to throw that in there. It's a business that you can be very proud of. You've done a great job with them.
Thank you.
So the question on the table, and thank you again for being a guest, is, we all have events in our lives that shape us, and sometimes they're like really big events, sometimes they're like just those pivotal changing moments that really have us see our world, maybe it's our business, maybe it's our life differently, that impacts us in a really positive way. And that was the question that I asked of you, and so and I appreciate you coming and sharing your story and your journey. So what was that event in your life? What is that thing that happened for you? Like, where were you? And then what was the event that happened that caused a change?
Sure. I think for me, it was right around when I had been in the ownership role about 10 years. So about half of my tenure with Diablo Valley Cabinetry, been working with my dad for a long time. And I really started wanting to put on the hat of doing an excellent job as a leader. I think at that point in time, my mindset changed from this is a job and this is a family business to my role and my calling in really becoming a good steward, of this particular business. And so I started looking at things differently, taking it, I don't want to say more seriously, but really intentionally wanting to improve, myself and how we ran as a business, thinking about one, our employees and how important this company was to them and caring for their families, and two, certainly our clients and our customers. So around that time period, as I was starting to think a little bit differently around how to do that, there is one particular event that came up, and it was, I'd say, an employee challenge. We had an employee that we had some particular difficulties with, and when it came up, I really didn't know what to do or how to approach it. And as we all know, most of the time we can't come up with the solutions internal or in our own silo. And so I had a conversation with a good friend of the family about the challenges and the struggles I was having. And immediately he pointed me in the direction of an organization or a mentor group of small business owners that met on a fairly regular basis to talk just about these sorts of things. He gave me two very important things right away. One was to contact this person and start going to the meetings right away. And two was, start reaching out to other people and being in dialogue. So I've been attending that group for the last decade. And it certainly has been one of the most foundational things for me for two reasons. One, working on the business rather than in the business. It's like my way of every single month, I need to commit a few hours to surrounding myself with people who are sharing the mentality and the focus on business rather than in the business. And two, both being vulnerable and opening up the failures, challenges, struggles that I'm having, and being available to others to come alongside when they have failures, struggles, and challenges as well. So that started about 10 years ago, and it really has been a life-changing pivot in myself in starting to think differently around bringing others.
How are you? Oh, I have so many questions. So, all right. Well, I'm going to start with my first question that occurred to me. I mean, obviously, there's a big question was how did it change you? Like, how are you different now? But it's also like I listened to that first part of, I so appreciate what you just said about like shifting from working in your business to working on your business and making the couple of hours a week, first of all, and then second of all, being willing to be open, be vulnerable, to share, to be willing to be shared
Yeah.
to. And can you just share a little bit more about that? Like one, like what was the thing? So you made it a choice at that moment to go, I'm going to work on my business and not just in it. What did you have to shift? Like, how did you have to shift your thinking? I mean, I'm not even sure exactly what the question is I'm asking, but there's something that you had to shift in
Sure.
practices, right? To make that. How did you do that?
Sure. And I think the first thing is, and this is something I need to remind myself of all the time, it's not like I shifted and now it's fixed and I'm going in that direction. It requires consistent weekly and monthly commitment to holding the trajectory of that shift, because it is so easy to just slump back into the old routine and call it the easy routine. The shift for me was really thinking organizationally about how I need to be preparing myself and positioning our team to operate independently and have clarity of how the company should be run, and less about me being the person that everything pivots around.
Mm,
I still struggle with that. I know most other small business owners do.
mhm.
It's kind of, again, it's an endless commitment to staying on that track, and then consistently making little steers along the way to stay there.
Yeah.
So really for me, it was starting to think bigger about the organization in general and less about, well, here's what I need to do for sales, here's what I need to do to keep the business going. It's how do we make that change?
Gosh, I love that. And I so appreciate what you're talking about in terms of like it's a constant choice.
Yep.
Because I find that to be true for myself as well. Like, like us doers, we want to get in and do, as opposed to like step back and go, okay, what's my role as a leader? Yeah, so kudos to you. And can you speak a little bit to the part about like this word vulnerability? I love that word, and I know it's a very scary word for a lot of people, and a lot of people go, no, don't like that word. But can you just like speak to that? Like, what does that mean to you to be willing to be vulnerable and be open in that way? Because as I hear you talk about
Sure.
how that's been an important part of what even allowed you to make that shift, and we'll talk about what that shift is and a little bit more in just a second, but can you just speak to that? Like, what does that mean to you? What did that mean
Uh,
for you? What does it mean to you continually?
sure. I mean, as far as the vulnerability piece with regard to the business, it's realizing that I don't need to try and maintain a persona or a vision of who I am. I'm a real person. I go with day-to-day struggles. I have day-to-day struggles. I have good days and I have bad days. And so it's just, that's okay. And, if I'm going through a particular challenge, I don't need to hide it. I don't necessarily need to divulge all of the details per se, but it's okay for my team to, see where I'm failing, see where I need to do better, ask them, and I invite them in to hold me accountable sometimes as well, rather than just me holding them accountable. But it's a reciprocal piece of it. So some of that vulnerability is inviting them in to be in relationship with me, so that way we can do better together as a group. Some of that is being willing to share my failures and my struggles and areas where I feel like I'm not doing what I need to do in my role. And the intent of that obviously is vulnerability, but it's a reciprocal invitation. If they feel comfortable and can trust me to know that, sorry about that, but if they can trust me to see that I'm modeling it, then that again invites trust back the other way. And so when harder conversations come up and things we aren't meeting our requirements, usually I'll start with myself and say, here's what I need to be doing better, and then here's what we need to be doing better, rather than here's what you need to be doing better.
Mm-hmm. Wow, I really appreciate you defining how that is with your team, because when I hear all of what you just shared, yes, it requires a certain amount of vulnerability to take responsibility in that way, right? It's taking responsibility for your part and being willing to share that. I have this thing of, I think to myself, I'm willing to take 100% responsibility 100% of the time. And the word responsibility is the ability to respond. And it's not what a lot of us think sometimes of: shame, blame, fault, responsibility, but simply the ability to respond. So like even what you're talking about when you start a conversation with your team and you start with, here's my responsibility in this, here's what I think I see I could have done differently. I love that. And it's such a powerful way to come at a conversation with our teams, to create more opening, which is what I'm hearing you say it does with them, is that they're willing to be more open with you. Yeah.
Yeah, and again, it's not a perfect, but you have to start with that. And one of the things that I read recently that has really resonated with me is, every conversation is an opportunity. It might not change anything, but every conversation you jump into, there's the possibility that something could change. So it's just creating the space where those opportunities can be captured. And I find that also plays in very nicely, with my family and my teenage daughters and wife as well.
Relationship connection 101. That's great. I like that. So in terms of the group, this group that you became a member of, part of what you said is shifting your mindset from working in your business to working on your business, and second, vulnerability. And I suspect that there's an element of being vulnerable with this group that also has made it beneficial. So can you just speak to that?
Yes.
More about that, because I'm curious about what that was.
No, I'm trying to think of a specific example. But I'd say kind of starting generally, and we'll see if the specific example comes to light. But again, it's a safe space. It's a safe space where people will share financial reports, and each month it's how are we doing? How are we performing in real numbers? And profitability, good months, bad months, employees. I heard another person tell me that you never are in. Let's see, what's the right way to put this? You're either finishing up a challenge with an employee, you're in the middle of a challenge with an employee, or there's one that's right around the corner coming. So, again, the idea is never to be in a space where you don't have anything going on. It's just embracing the fact that those are the challenges in business that we navigate, and hoping that they go away or they don't exist doesn't necessarily help. But
I like that. I really appreciate that. It's true, right? Like, we're always just dealing with human beings, and human beings, we're kind of messy. So yeah, that's nice. That's nice. That's a nice way to look at that. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. That's okay. It's just all of it. I mean, HR stuff. I think the biggest piece of it is just, for me, the vulnerability was how many things that I don't have in place that I probably should, whether it's HR programs or, better benefits or policies that, that our company needs to be, implementing in order to stay current, especially in complex states like California that have a lot of regulations. Insurances that we do or don't have, making sure that we have proper coverages and protections, employee challenges. It's really everything that you can think of when it comes to, business building and, navigating, again, what I call the stewardship of, running the organization.
How is all of that? How is being part of that group, which is really the learning here, and this is, that thing that was the growing edge for you? What is it? How did that change you? How is it changed? How, in one way, I know you just described in terms of employees, which I love. But how else has it changed you, and how has it changed you as a person and in how you run your business?
I think the way that it's changed me as a person is being able to give myself some grace and forgiveness and space to realize that perfection is not my goal. I know all of us as business owners, we're constantly up at night or, trying to make sure that we've got everything covered, and we can beat ourselves up a lot. And I beat myself up a lot. So it's just realizing that that's normal, expected, and just don't stay in that space. It's just not a healthy space to be. So I think that's the biggest piece I will say that has changed me is like, it's okay. We'll figure out a way, we'll get through it. The highs aren't always the highs and the lows aren't always the lows. But it's just face what you kind of have in front of you right now. And I know that's kind of a little bit of a general piece, but really it's just giving myself grace to be good and bad at the same time.
That's huge. I love that, Frank. Yeah. Whew. That's really good. I'm guessing you being that way has made a difference in how you lead as well, which I think you were talking about a while ago. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it has. It's because for me, I always tend to, I'd say, err on the side of giving people space to do their job. I've never really been a like hammer down on people, or like call it the old school mentality of but that's an area that I also need to get better at, of being more clear about what the expectations are, and really fairly and consistently holding people accountable to the commitments that that they make as well. And that, again, that's a constant practice of creating the conversations, being willing to step into that space, and not avoiding it.
All right. Yeah. Yeah. It's and it's like you said, that like it's that you're always dealing with somebody who's, had a struggle, in a struggle, about to have a challenge, like that. There's like that cycle. So yeah, it's a constant process. Yeah, I appreciate that. Anything else to share about that experience and about how it's changed you, or yeah, just anything else that you'd like to share about all of that? Or
I think the other piece that I would share is just it's really helped me realize the kind of pay it forward mentality, and to make sure that I'm available when other people are looking for similar sort of support. As small business owners, it's really easy for me to get into the trap of, well, hey, look at this business I created, or look at these amazing things that I've done, or my business is successful because of me. And again, it's just a healthy reminder that yeah, that's one side of the equation, but the other side is that there are just so many other amazing people that have taken the time to pour into me and to gift me their time and wisdom, and support, to navigate through. So as I'm transitioning in my career and moving from the front end into, I don't want to say the back end per se, but one thing that is really important to me is to be that resource for other people, and be available and be paying attention, so that when that need comes up, or when somebody asks, that I'm making time for that as well.
Nice. That's awesome. That's awesome. My thought as you say all of that is, you have a servant's heart for sure. And I think that's wonderful. And I know you have a lot to contribute to people and this. So thank you. Thank you for sharing your story and your journey. And is there any final thoughts that you have before we close this up?
No, just thank you for asking the question and inviting me in. I appreciate the opportunity to share a little bit, and I always appreciate having conversation with you. I always take things away that I know I can start applying and put to use. So it's always valuable time, and thank you very much. Appreciate what you do.
You're absolutely welcome. I so enjoyed that conversation with Frank, and I hope you did too. I think our stories that we share about our journeys of life and our shared humanity of the struggles and how we learn and grow are so powerful and important in letting us know that we're not alone, and helping us to maybe get some ideas and wisdom and insights. And I have to say that, even just the little thing that Frank shared about realizing that if you're a leader, that you're going to be managing people, there'll always be some version of challenges with that instead of looking at it like you want it to be one and done, that you embrace it and look at it like it's just part of the process, and it's just part of what happens, and you flow with it. And I just thought that was great. I thought that was such a great insight and wisdom on his part, that I'm certainly going to take away from this conversation that I had with him. And if you are interested in sharing your story and your journey, if there's something in your life that happened that has very much influenced and helped you along the path, I would love to talk with you about that and maybe interview you. Feel free to reach out to me at Vicki@suitorbusinessbuilders.com, and we can just have a conversation. One other thing that I want to offer here is that if you're interested in being in a group like Frank described, we have a contractors collective group that you would be more than welcome to look into and see if that's a right fit for you. There's a link down below to provide you the page that would give you all the information that you would need, and we can hop on a call and chat about that as well if you'd like to learn more. Thanks again for being here today, and I look forward to seeing you next time on the Profit Builder Unscripted.